Good morning, everyone. Today, I'll be speaking about novelty and the originality in the film King's Speech, movie that transformed deeply personal struggle into a powerful story of leadership, vulnerability, and human connection. At first glance, the King's Speech might seem like a conventional historic drama, royal figure, national crisis, and a journey towards the greatness. But what makes this film truly original? That it doesn't focus on only on power, politics, and grand achievement. Instead, it centers on something reliably on deeply human. A man's find his voice, literally and emotionally. The shift is focused from public authority to private vulnerability is what gives the film its novelty. One of the most original aspects of the movie is how it's portrayed. Traditionally, King in cinema are shown as confident, commanding, emotionally distant people. However, King George VI is presented as anxious, insecure, and painful self-conscious due to his stammer. This portrait humanized the monarch, allowing the audience to connect with him more, not as a ruler, but as a fresh to the gender of a royal biopic. Another major element of the originality lies in the relationship between Bertie and his speech therapist, Lionel Love. Rather than a formal doctor-patient relationship, this developed into a friendship, but built on the honesty, human, and mutual respect. Leon treats Bertie not as a king, but as an equal as much as her, calling him by the nickname and challenging royal conventions. The unusual dynamic introduced warmth and light into a narrative, making the film both touching and reliable. The therapy session filled with the awkward silence, sudden outbursts, and emotional breakage to become some of the most memorable novels in this film. The film is also innovative in the present the idea of leadership. Instead of showing leadership as a dominant or authority, the King's Speech defined the leadership as the courage to confront one weakness and rise above them. The King's greatness battle is not against the political enemies, but against his own fear and insecurity. These internal conflicts, rather the external conflicts, drives the narrative forward and offering a fresh approach to the storytelling. Cinematically, the film also stands out. The director used wide-angle shots, framing, and the empty space in the room to visually reflect and Bertain's isolation and discomfort. These stylistic choice are suitable but also very effective, allowing the viewers to experience the character emotional state rather than just observing it. The restrained color palette and minimal background music further enhance the realism, making the audience feel immersed in Bertie's struggle. The understand the visual states add originality by moving away from the grand, decorate tone usually associated with the royal films. Perhaps the most powerful mm, moment in the film is climaxing speech during the Britain declare of the war. Unlike traditional historic speech filled with dramatic gesture and loud applause, this scene is quiet, tense, and intimate. The focus is not on the crowd reaction but on the British face, his pause, his breathing, and his determination to finish the every word. The audience is not just listening to the speech, they are living through within him. The emotional closeness makes the moment in the movie most unforgettable and deeply the original. Moreover, the King's Speech challenged the stigma surrounded speech disorder and mental health. Instead of portraying stammer as weakness, the film framed it as a challenge that required patience, resilience, and compassion. The representation is so refreshing, especially in mainstream cinema, where such struggle is often overloaded or oversimplified. By giving voice and quite literally to the issue, the film added social relevancy to the originality. In conclusion, the novelty of the King's Speech lies not in spectacle but in sincerity. It transforms a historical event into deeply human story of a friendship, vulnerability, and the innocence. It originally comes from portraying a king not as a symbol of power, but as a person learning to overcome the fear and in doing the discovery of his own true voice. Ultimately, the king's speech remained as the greatest greatness does not come from the perfection, but it's come from the perseverance. And that is making the film just to make more memorable but truly original. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Mitrekha Burua and today I am going to speak about the movie The King's Speech and the important lessons we can learn from it. This movie is a historical drama based on the real life of King George VI of Britain. The story mainly focuses on his struggle with a speech problem called stammering. During that period, radio was becoming the most important way to communicate with people. A king was expected to speak clearly and confidently to the entire nation. However, King George VI found public speaking very difficult, and this made him feel nervous, embarrassed, and insecure. One of the most important lessons from this movie is that having a weakness does not mean we are incapable. The king was intelligent and responsible, but his speech problem made him doubt himself. This teaches us that many people have talent and potential, but fear and lack of confidence stop them from performing well. The movie also shows that the king's stammer was not only a physical problem, it was also a psychological. His childhood experience, fear of judgment, and pressure of expectations increases his difficulty. This reminds us that mental barriers are often stronger than physical ones. Another key takeaway from this movie is that importance of practice and patience. The king did not become confident in one day. He practiced regularly, failed many times, and still continued his efforts. Sometimes he felt frustrated, but he did not give up. This teaches us that real improvement takes time, and slow progress is still progress. The movie is also a strong example of the role of a good mentor. Lionel, the speech therapist, helped the king in a unique way. He did not treat him as just a patient or a king. He treated him as a normal human being. He focused on confidence, comfort, and trust, not only on speaking techniques. This shows that good guidance can change a person's life. Leadership is another important theme in the King's Speech. King George VI was not a perfect speaker, but he was a responsible leader. When World War II began, he had to address the nation and give hope to the people. Even though he was afraid, he stood up and delivered the speech. His speech was not perfect, but it was honest and sincere. This teaches us that leadership is about courage and responsibility, not perfection. The movie also highlights the importance of support systems. The king's wife and therapist always supported him and encouraged him. Their belief in him gave him strength. This reminds us that success is easier when we have supportive people around us. The final speech scene is the most powerful moment in the movie. Every pause and every word shows effort and determination. At that moment, the king is not just speaking as a ruler, but as a person who has overcome fear. This scene teaches us that finding our voice can inspire others, even if it is difficult. Overall, the King's Speech teaches us that confidence is built, not born. With continuous effort, proper guidance, and belief in ourselves, we can overcome our weaknesses. The movie is not just about a king learning to speak, but about any individual learning to face fear and speak up. Thank you.
Let's talk about the strength of the movie, which are the main reason why the King's Speech became so successful and won several academic awards. The first and foremost powerful strength is the acting performance. Colin Firth, who plays the role of King George, delivers an excellent and unforgettable performance. Portraying a stammer is extremely difficult because sometimes it may feel fake or exaggerated, but Co- Colin Firth makes it look completely natural. We can feel his pain, frustration, embarrassment, and fear every time he tries to speak. His expression, body language, and pauses makes us emotionally connected with the character and his journey. Similar George Freirash, who plays the role of Lionel Locke, the speech therapist, brings warmth, humor, and confidence to the story. His character balances the seriousness of the king's struggle with light-hearted moments. The friendship between the kings and the therapist feels genuine and heartwarming. Their chemistry is one of the biggest highlight in the movie. We have to talk about the storytelling. The story is very simple, not yet extremely engaging. There is no complicated twist, fights, or action scene. Instead, the movie focuses on personal journeys. It proves that even a small internal struggle can create a powerful narrative. The director keeps the story tight, focused only on the king's transformation. Because of this, the audience never feels distracted. Nevertheless, we have to talk about the direction. The director Tom Hopper uses a extremely subtle and realistic style. He doesn't dramatize the story unnecessarily. Everything feels authentic and natural. The screenplay is well written with meaningful dialogues. Many conversations between the kings and the therapist are deep, witty, and emotional at the same time. These dialogues makes the movie intelligent rather than just entertaining. Also, the camera work and screening is taken very creatively. Often the king is shown, for example, the king is shown alone in a large empty room, which visually represents his anxiety and isolation. Sometimes also the camera angles are slightly off center and creating discomfort that reflects his extreme anxiety. These visual tension silently communicate emotions without word. The background music. We have to talk about background music and the sound designs. The background scores are beautifully built emotion, especially during the final speech. The music slowly rises, creating a tension, inspiration at the same time. It makes the audience feel goosebumps. Without the music, the scene would not have been so powerful. The costume, sets, location extremely recreates the 1930s and 1940s British era. From royal palace to radio rooms, everything looks realistic. This helps the audience feel like they are actually living in the time period. Finally, one of the greatest strength is the emotional connection the movie creates. Even though it is about the king's struggle, everyone has faced fear, nervousness, and lack of confidence of some point. So we relate to the character easily. This emotional relatability makes the movie memorable and impactful. So overall, through brilliant acting, simple storytelling, story direction, beautiful visuals, meaningful music, and deep emotional connection, The King's Speech becomes not just a movie, but an inspiring experience.
So, hi guys, I'm Harish. So, today I'll be doing a movie review in which I'll be talking about the weaknesses and areas of improvement of the movie King's Speech. King's Speech is widely appreciated for its emotional depth and strong performance. However, like any other film, it is not without its limitations. One of the main weaknesses of the movie is its slow pacing, and several scenes resolve around King George VI speech therapy sessions. And these moments are important to the show, to his struggles, and they become repetitive at times. This slow procession may reduce the interest of the viewers who prefer a faster moving storyline. As a result, the film can longer than necessary, and especially in the middle portion. Another noticeable weaknesses is the limited historical exploration. The movie is focuses heavily on the king's personal battle with his speech impediment, but it does not go deeply into the broader historical context of the time. Events such as the political tension in the Europe and the beginning of the World War II are only briefly mentioned. Including the more historical background would have helped the audience better understand the seriousness of the king's responsibility and the pressure he faces as a leader. The film also represents oversimplified conflicts, and that particularly within the royal family, the political circles and some disagreements are shown in very straightforward manner, making them easy to understand but lacking complexity. In reality, the royal and the political conflicts are often layered, but it's complicated. By simplifying these struggles, the movie sacrifices the realism for the emotional impact. Another weakness lies in the underdevelopment of the supporting characters. While King George VI and the Lionel Logue are excellently portrayed, and other characters such as Queen Elizabeth and the King Edward eighth receive a limited development and they play important roles in the story, yet their personal struggles and motivations are not fully explored. And this makes the film feel narrowly focused instead of fully rounded. In terms of the areas of improvement, the movie could have been benefited from stronger character development for the secondary roles, giving more dialogue and screen time to supporting characters would have added a depth to the story and allowed viewers to better connect with them. Additionally, the film could have included a greater variation in scenes and settings. Many scenes take place in indoors, especially in therapy rooms and the King's Chamber. Introducing more diverse locations could have improved the visual interest and reduced the feeling of repetition. And another one of the major improvement is the ending impact. Although the final speech is emotionally powerful and the film does not fully show its effect on the British public, showing the public reactions or long-term outcomes could have strengthened the conclusion and emphasized the importance of the king's achievement. So, in conclusion, while the King's Speech is an inspiring and emotionally strong film, I would recommend all of you to watch the film. Uh, it has weakness such as slow pacing, limited historical depth, simplified conflicts, and underdevelopment side characters. With more historic content and better use of the supporting roles and varied storytelling, the film could have been more impactful. So that's it, friends. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Abhishek B. The topic I'll be speaking about is motivation, message, and audience impact. The King's Speech is a film that motivates not through action or spectacle, but through quiet resilience. It tells the story of a man who is placed in a position of immense responsibility at a time when the communication itself becomes a national necessity. The movie's power lies in showing how deeply personal struggles can intersect with public expectation, making the story both intimate and universal. The central message of the film is that communication is not about flawless delivery, but about courage, responsibility, and intent. King George VI never becomes a perfect speaker. Even during the final radio address, he hesitates, pauses, and struggles. Yet, the audience understand that his imperfection make the message more authentic. The film reminds us that progress is not measured by perfection but by persistence and effort. This message connected strongly with me on a personal level. My stammering began when I was around 5 years old. Through my school and my plus 2 years, speaking in class often felt intimidating. Simple activities like reading aloud or answering questions came with anxiety. There were always an internal pressure, the fear of being judged, interrupted, or misunderstood. Over time, particularly to my engineering years, I gained better control and confidence. Today, in my MBA, it is rare, but it has not completely disappeared. Watching this movie felt deeply personal because it reflected my own journey. Like the king, I learned that silence only increases fear, while speaking, even imperfectly, builds confidence. The movie does not suggest that challenges vanish. Instead, it teaches that we grow through strong enough to face them. That realization is not extremely motivating, especially for anyone who has struggled with communication at any stage of life. A significant source of motivation in the film is the character of Lionel Logue. Lionel's role goes beyond speech therapy. He creates a space where the king feels safe, respected, and equal. This relationship delivers an important message. True motivation comes from empathy and belief, not authority or pressure. Lionel never mocks the king's weakness. Instead, he challenges him to believe in himself. This shows how powerful support systems can be in overcoming personal limitation. The audience impact of the king's speech is both emotional and lasting. For individuals who struggle with communication, whether due to stammering, anxiety, or fear of public speaking, the movie offers reassurance and hope. It tells them that their voice still matters. For those who do not face such challenges, the film builds empathy. It encourages patience, understanding, and respect for people who communicate differently. The movie also redefines leadership in a powerful way. It shows that leadership is not about dominance or eloquence, but about responsibility and sincerity. The king speaks not because he is confident, but because his people needs reassurance. This transforms communication into an act of service rather than performance, making the message more deeply impactful. In conclusion, the king's speech motivates us by showing that strength does not come from eliminating weakness, but from standing up despite it. The film leaves the audience with lasting reminder that every individual has a voice, even if it trembles, and that courage is found in choosing to speak when it matters most. Everyone deserves to be heard. Every voice matters. God save the king. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Sairam Reddy. I'm going to explain the about the overall assessment and the final verdict of the film The King's Speech, which was released in 2010. Now I'm going to explain about the film overview. So it was directed by Tom Hooper, and the movie centers mainly on King George VI, who battles a lifelong stammer that threatens his role as a leader, mainly in during the World War II. So he enlists as an unconventional speech therapist, Lionel Logue. So which was sparkling unlikely friendship built on therapy sessions filled with conflict and growth. And the Helena Bonham Carter shines as a Queen Elizabeth, adding emotional warmth and the true story to vulnerability and the resolvedness. And coming to critics, critics adored it, 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, where they took overall 301 reviews from the audience, calls it a masterclass in acting, direction, and screenplay. Uh, Coming to Metacritics, it was 88 by 100 score, reflecting a true universal acclaim, praising its elegant production and the beautiful design they have made, and purely that amplified the tensions of the public speeches. So publications like the Guardian and the Variety lauded its afraid, avoiding a melodrama while delivering a proper inspiration to others. So, coming to the impact it has actually made on the audience is the viewers has resonated deeply. A 92% popcorn meter score and an A plus cinema score, showing its a broad appeal, how it's uplifted the genre of this cinema. And the IMDb is 8 by 10, which was given by millions of people, which they have rewatched it again and again, blending a proper laughs with pathos, and it crossed $414 million on a budget which was made $15 million, proving that the prestige films can succeed commercially. This movie has sparked global discussions on even on mental health stigma. So, on the awards it has received, is that the film swept four wins in 2011 Oscars for the Best Picture, Best Director, Actor, and Screenplay. And out of 12 nominations, even the Golden Globes and more, cementing its status as a modern classic alongside the film like The Queen's Gambit in exploring royalty human side. So, coming to the overall final verdict, I'm going to give is that it is a must-watch film, giving 9 by 10. So it was well polished and profoundly in nature. It was a perfect for everyone appreciating the character-driven stories that celebrates the resilience and the timeless proof that the vulnerability fuels strength. Thank you.
Goodness grave. Hour.